Welcome back. Today we're going to continue our series on how to create a build script for your application using Nant. In this episode we're going to take a look at how you can utilize tools such as SqlCmd to run your database scripts during your build process. Having the ability to run these SQL scripts is very important because it can allow you to do multiple things. One thing it can allow you to do is recreate a database for your test to run in. This is nice because it gives you a clean environment for every test run, and you don't get some weird phantom errors. Another reason you'd want to build your database within your build script is it allows you to update your database with all the changes needed during the development cycle. If you've added procedures, you simply add them to your directory, and then next time you run your build script, it'll actually update the procedures, or if you have modified tables, so on and so forth, you can do that over and over again. Let's quickly take a look at the database schema, which we're going to be using for our demo today. It's a very simple schema, has an images table and images type table, nothing major. And if I select the data out of them right now, you can see I have no data in them. So we have a clean slate. Let's go ahead and drop these tables, because I'm going to recreate the table as well as dump some test data into them. And as you can see, I no longer have my tables. Now we're going to be utilizing the SqlCmd tool for this demo. You could easily swap this out for the SQL command if you wish. SqlCmd is just the newer tool that came with SQL 2005, but they both do the same thing. In fact, they both have the exact same command switches. Here's a SQL command that I'm going to be running. So I'm going to say SqlCmd. I'm going to get the S switch, which tells me the server I want to use, the D for the database, U for username, P for password, and the I switch tells me the input file I want to call. So in our case, I would be calling this input file, which is our data load script. We actually want to do this via our Nant script, so let's go ahead and take a look at Nant and see what we can do for that. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to actually build a target, which I can call from our command line or call from a bat file that will simply rebuild the database. So I'm going to create a target called build database. Now I actually want to create two separate targets in order to run our SqlCmd. The first target I'm going to be creating is the execute SQL command. Now what this target is, it's a generic target that will allow me to call this multiple times, and each time I call it, provide a new script file. And inside of this target I've defined two properties. The first one here is a property that points to the SQL tools directory on your local installation. And the second will take that directory and append onto the SqlCmd executable name. And that way I can just simply use this property when referring to the executable. Now I'm going to echo out the call. I just want to be able to see what I'm doing on the output window. And finally I'm going to use the Nant tool execute. And I'm going to say execute SqlCmd with these command line parameters. Now that we have that target created, I need to create the target that actually do the work for us. This target is going to be called build database image sizer. And what this target will do is it'll actually set up some variables right here. So where all my SQL scripts located, what is the first file I want to execute, the server name, the database name, the username and password. And these four properties are actually going to be used down in my execute SqlCmd call. Before we take a look at how this actually works, let's bounce over to our hard drive and see how we have it set up. In my source root directory, I have a folder called database scripts. Inside database scripts, I create multiple folders, one called tables, one data load. If I had procedures, I'd create one for that. If I had views, I'd create one for that, and so on and so forth. And inside of these folders, I have individual SQL script files. And the reason I've done this is it allows me to centralize the location of all my SQL scripts and also allow me to very easily call them one after another. So let's go ahead and bounce back to our Nant and see how we can do this. Now the first thing I'm going to do is, like I was saying, I created my pathway to my script I want to run. After I've done this, I'm simply going to call the target execute SqlCmd, and it'll actually run this target for that particular file. Now that works out great, but if I have an entire directory of files that I want to execute one after another, I probably don't want to call them one by one, because it just become a maintenance nightmare and very tedious and painful. So what you can actually use is the for each mechanism, which is built into Nant. And I'm going to be for eaching over a file set. This is the directory I want to be looping through. And as it finds a file, pop it into the property called file name. And what this will allow me to do is, if this data load directory had multiple scripts in it, say one for each individual table or various versions, I could just run them one after another. This gets rid of the need to actually have to manually call them one by one. Now once I have the file name, I'm going to echo it out so I can see what's going on. In this case, I'm already in the directory that has the script, so I don't need to provide that, so I'm going to set it to empty string. And last but not least, I'm going to set the script file name to the file name that was pulled out via the looping mechanism, and then I'm going to call the SQL execute. Now in order to actually run this, I need to do one final thing. I want to take this and I want to move this up to my target here and say that build database depends on this call. So now I can simply call the build database command from my command line, and it'll actually run my build database image sizer. So let's go ahead and take a look at our command line and see how that works. Here's the command line call that it will actually run our script for us and run our target. We've seen this before, and what this is doing is it's going from my current directory, which is my root, my source. It's backing into my tools Nant subdirectory and finding the Nant executable, providing Nant the command switch build file, and it's giving the build file in which I'm using. And last but not least, I'm providing the target on which I want to call. In this case, it's build database. Now let's hit enter and see what happens. So you can see it ran the SQL command, calling, with these parameters on the command line, set the database, and we're about to run another script, and it's going to be running the data load script. And again, I'm bouncing the SQL command, and here are the switches I'm providing. Now, if all this ran successfully, I should be able to bounce over to my database and see new tables. There you go. So, as you can see, I can now rebuild my tables on the fly with every individual build run and add data to a modify data, alter columns, create procedures. Whatever you can do via Query Analyzer, you can script up and have it done via Nant. So I hope you've seen how easy and simple it is to incorporate the rerunning and the running of your database scripts via your build process. Until next time.